We had been speculating about a state of play for a little while now. If you remember, we of course talked about the Resident Evil 3 rumors, and then that went all over the place, all over the internet at the time, and then it got picked up by a lot of media outlets, and eventually Daniel Ahmed tweeted out that it doesn't necessarily need to be at the Game Awards, because there could be an event that takes place before the Game Awards that would announce it, and it looks like that is probably what's going to happen here. Not necessarily that the event's taking place, but this could be where Resident Evil 3 is officially announced. It all kind of comes together. We'll talk about all of that here and what I think could be at this state of play. So first things first, what's going on? Well, Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific time, that's kind of early for the West Coast, 9 a.m. Eastern, we will have a state of play from Sony, which of course is basically their like Nintendo Direct on their side. And they even put out a blog post and it says, the year is almost over, but we've got one more state of play to share with you. It airs Tuesday, December 10th at 6 a.m. Pacific time, 9 a.m. Eastern, and you can watch live on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, etc. We've got around 20 minutes of new game reveals, release date announcements, new gameplay footage, PlayStation Worldwide Studios updates, and more. It probably bears repeating, don't expect any updates related to our next-gen plans in this episode. They say that every time, and still, people go in, I think, still expecting PlayStation 5 stuff. I do like, by the way, that Sony says that because it would be the most speculated on people would be all over PlayStation 5 stuff going into this, despite them themselves not even focusing on it even a little bit, not even a hint, and that would just annoy people very badly. So I am happy that they are tempering expectations on next-gen stuff. Sony will talk about it when they're ready to talk about it, and I think that's going to be towards the end of February, if I had to take a guess, similar to what they did with the PlayStation 4. That worked out fine for them. Get the technical specs out of the way ahead of time, and then at E3, do a big blowout with price and games, and get us ready for launch probably in first half of November. So, they say they still have 20 minutes of new game reveals, release date announcements, new gameplay footage, and PlayStation Worldwide Studios updates, and they say and more on top of that. So there's a lot of stuff to kind of think about here. I'm going to go over some of the stuff. I think we have a couple of locks, though, here, like that we know will take place, okay? So a few of them do include things like Resident Evil 3. I mean, we pretty much know it's going to be there at this point. It was even leaked out by Sony themselves. So, yes, we see the key art, right? Like it's something a lot of us have looked at. Some people have heavily speculated on this thing. They've taken a look, they've broken it all down, looked at the character models, all that. It's pretty obvious that there will be Resident Evil 3 remake news at this event. I am curious if this is going to be something that launches in the back half of 2020 or the front half of 2020. That is more or less what we're trying to figure out now, is how close are we to this launch? Because if they can get it out in earlier 2020, I think people would get really excited. And you know what? Resident Evil 3, to me anyway, is big enough to where, yes, they could announce it and then a few months later it come out and it would still do really, really well. I know these companies like to have a bit of a runway, if you want to call it that, for marketing, distribution, and to get people hyped, but Resident Evil is big enough to where as long as they can get the distribution taken care of, the marketing will handle itself. If they say it's out February, end of February, right, 2020, the internet will spread like wildfire with that. It won't matter. Everyone will be ready. Everyone will get if you're buying Resident Evil, you'll have your $60 ready that day as it is. So they can wait till the back half of 2020. Maybe in like an August, they could do that. My only concern is that they try to launch it in March and April, and those months are getting pretty packed right now with games. So I would prefer they launch it sooner rather than later because I want to play it. But I mean, if it's the back half of 2020, it's the back half of 2020. But yeah, expect Resident Evil 3 information there. And then the other one, which I'm still trying to figure out which one they're going to close out with. We'll come back to that. Ghost of Tsushima appears to have some sort of presence at this event. I believe they're going to give us a release date, and I think it's going to be the back half of 2020. Now, the reason a lot of people are assuming that that will be something here is because Sony has begun updating playlists on their channel, on their YouTube channel, and have been have videos up that are privated, and it seems that a lot of those are kind of showing up in the Ghost of Tsushima playlist. So it appears that they will probably have new gameplay, and they'll have a release date. I believe, if I had to take a guess, it is hard to guess, obviously, these release dates. I would guess the first half of September, mostly to get it out 2-ish months before the PlayStation 5 drops. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with the PlayStation 5 being backwards compatible, so if it is a PlayStation 4 only game, it will still kind of be a PS5 game. Maybe there's a patch that you download and it makes things look better, maybe it makes it run better. Basically, it'll also take advantage of what the PlayStation 5 has to offer, faster loading times, those kind of things. It's something that they can launch before the PlayStation 5 comes out as a PS4 disc, and it'll still work. So it won't really hold anyone off from buying it if they're like, well, I'm getting the PS5. Why would I get a PS4 game? The game itself looks good anyway. I was getting some serious Way of the Samurai vibes from it. I really like that series. It's one that a lot of people have forgotten about, but after playing Sekiro and now looking at this game, I am ready to play Ghost of Tsushima. I just need a release date. I think the front half of September makes a lot of sense for that one. And since this is going to be another marketing push for them, maybe they'll do something else, just like, hey, don't forget Last of Us Part 2 is coming out in like half a year or something. You know, it's out in May. They could hold off on that and just put that down the road. They don't really need it to be here, but it is a 20-minute presentation, so I guess they have some time. I believe they're also going to talk to us about Dreams release date. I don't know how many people are like, oh boy, Dreams. But hey, I mean, there's a community around it right now in early access that have actually paid to be in early access. And, you know, they'll launch it probably in the coming months. There have been rumors that it would be like a February or a March release. And that's fine. I mean, there have been some cool things done with Dreams. I'm personally not like overly excited about a Dreams release date, but I do understand there is a community behind it. There's probably also going to be some downtime in this whole thing overall, 5 or 6 minutes, and a lot of that will probably have to do with some crazy indie games that no one's going to be able to predict, and probably VR stuff. And I've thought about what could even be there for VR. It's hard to say. I mean, seriously, like we had the Iron Man game got unveiled randomly and everyone got really excited that it was Iron Man, and then they realized it was VR and it kind of got to this lull where we're like, okay, VR stuff. I mean, Sony does have a responsibility to push VR because they are the market leader. So, I mean, I get it, but there will be a point in time where we're watching VR stuff on screen, and then they'll probably lead into the indie stuff that a lot of people probably won't necessarily be sold on. And then we'll get to the bigger stuff. If I had to, like, the one thing I would really like to see for VR, an Astrobot sequel. That would be cool. Like, or just more Astrobot stuff, even if it's DLC. But like a full-on sequel would be neat. I don't know if there's been enough time to get that done, considering that launched, towards the end of it was in 2018. Yeah, so maybe it hasn't been long enough now, but even to announce it for next year, that'd be kind of neat. You could also see them talk about the new Yakuza game there. You could see them talk about Persona 5 Royal Edition coming west, because of course we got a release date. Maybe they want to remind us of that since it's technically a PlayStation game at this point. And maybe they just want to let us know about that. But going into some stuff that I think would be neat, and this is where speculation obviously really, really starts. Like, we've been speculating leading up to this, but like now it's like we don't have a lot of proof around this. This is all just, let's take some guesses. Final Fantasy VII Remake, I think, needs a demo. It doesn't need one, but I would like one. So if they could do a Final Fantasy VII Remake demo that shadow drops, that would be amazing. I think people would get super hyped up about that. And this game is supposed to be very, very long. I mean, they were saying like 50, 60 hours or something in this game, and it's like a slice of Final Fantasy VII. If they could put a demo out that's like an hour and something carries over, whether it's a reward that you get for playing through the demo or just your stats overall, like it just carries over, basically you play like the first bit of the game or something, that would be awesome. I would really like to see that. Another thing that would be good to see here, because I'm a bit concerned about this game, and I'm about to say it, and I think a lot of people forgot about it, that's Babylon's Fall. Do you remember that game that was announced a couple years ago and it's like disappeared completely? That's, I believe, the collaboration between Square and Platinum Games, and it's just disappeared. There have been rumors that there were issues in development, and if they can show it here, that would at least provide some confidence that it's still coming out. It doesn't necessarily all have to be first-party Sony stuff or any of that. There's going to be some third-party stuff here, obviously, with RE3. Babylon's Fall, that has to come back around, or that's a concerning thing that could be happening, is that they're struggling so bad that it might never come out. I'd like to think that it is, because it was at least interesting to see where that project goes, but the fact that we've heard nothing about it, like not even a little bit, is concerning. I was trying to figure out if there would be any type of studio acquisition announcement. That's something else a lot of people are wondering. I think that it has a better place on Twitter. Remember they announced Insomniac there with a press release and they posted on Twitter, and that took over like the internet during Gamescom. They weren't even there. They tweeted out a press release that they had acquired them, and that took over it to the point where Jeff Keighley had to talk about it on stage randomly because of that. So yeah, I don't know if they need to announce that they've acquired something like Bluepoint or Remedy. That'd be better off just doing a press release for. And unless the company has like or the development studio has a game ready to announce, like I would love to know what Bluepoint's working on, but I feel like they're saving that to go coincide with the PS5 reveal. I think that's one of their big games that they're going to announce next to it. So no, it doesn't really make any sense to announce that here, or a studio acquisition. Although, I mean, come on, looking at Bluepoint and Sony together, I mean, that seems obvious to me that Sony probably will eventually acquire them. You could also see something cool happen, like maybe an Ape Escape. Maybe Capcom has more than RE3. Maybe they want to drop a Mega Man game in there or something. I doubt it. I think Capcom's going to show up with that, and I'd be shocked if Sony was really going to show up with something like Ape Escape. But Activision showing up with maybe talks about the next Crash Bandicoot would be pretty cool, considering they have talked about how the Insane trilogy and Spyro the Reignite trilogy did so well that they're looking now at these as like current mascots rather than past mascots. And hey, we have them now. And I mean, a lot of people relate Sony and Crash together, right? So this could be a good spot to announce that. And I think that would make a lot of sense to at least show a trailer, not necessarily even that it's coming out like, I don't know, in a few months. That could be, the new Crash Bandicoot could even spill into 2021 as a cross-gen game, but if they could show or talk about it in some way, that would be pretty awesome. But I am looking forward to the State of Play. So we have Tuesday, we have State of Play, and then Thursday, we have Game Awards. So next week is going to be packed. It's going to be a mini E3, basically, and it's exciting stuff. About 10 announcements or so, new game announcements, okay, not necessarily just updates on current stuff at the Game Awards, and then probably several announcements here as well at the State of Play. It's going to be a fun week in December, and it's going to get us all, I think, hyped up for 2020, and it's going to be a fun year in games. Next year is going to be a lot of fun. I think all three companies are going to start really clicking on all cylinders, with Microsoft having a new system and a bunch of games to announce, Sony a new system and a bunch of games to announce, and Nintendo really in the prime of the Switch's life, so they'll have a ton of stuff to talk about and release. It's going to be fun. 2020 is going to be a good year, but let me know what you guys think is going to be at the State of Play. I'm very curious if there's anything I missed here that you would want to see announced. I mean, at this point, just take some guesses, because who knows? You know, we get some crazy stuff announced here, and it'd be awesome. Thanks, guys, for watching. Make sure you like the video on the way out if you liked it, dislike it if not, and I'll see you next time.